Hello, guys, and welcome to another podcast. I have with me the red pill superstar, GayLubeOil. Can you tell us how you became such a superstar? I'm presuming, was it 2015? You were the highest upvoted guy on Reddit, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the story of how I became a red pill superstar, at least for 2015, was, first I figured out who my audience was for the red pill, and I actually did a whole bunch of Skype chats, and I figured out that the average age was 21-year-old kids, middle class college kids, and so for that age group, they get distracted very easily, and so rather than writing in an academic style, the style that we're taught in universities, I wrote kind of in a familiar bro style, so I was more relatable to them.
Yeah.
And just a lot of humor in there, but at the same time, I tried to cover topics that haven't been covered before, or maybe have a complex philosophical topic and make it accessible to people. And so that's really what's been working. One of the things that I kind of say to myself when I write an article is I say that, if my article isn't entertaining, what's going to happen is they're going to close the tab and start viewing pornography. Like within, let's say, they're going to, I think they'll give me 30 seconds before they start viewing pornography. So I try and be more entertaining to a 20-year-old college kid than naked women. That's what I'm aiming for.
Do you think you've achieved that? I mean, your name, and we were discussing as to how your name came about. I mean, the first comment that was on the chat right now is, does GayLubeOil like butt plugs? I mean,
so the way I got my name was, if you go to any male forum, you see people trying to out alpha each other. Like alpha eagle, alpha dog, extreme out. Like everyone is playing this game of who is the most masculine just in the username. Like right when they come there, they already want to win. Just with their, what is it, 12 character? I don't know. And so where I got my username was people were trying to smuggle testosterone into Australia, and they smuggled it as GayLubeOil. And so, testosterone is like masculinity. So I thought that's really funny, so my username is kind of like testosterone. But at the other interpretation of it is it's like this vulgar homosexual sex act, perhaps. And so it also makes it really difficult for my leftist opposition, to attack me because they think I'm a homosexual. I'm not a homosexual. My girlfriend's actually in this room right now, but it's a lot of fun, and they feel bad attacking someone who they're not sure, what game they're playing.
Yeah.
So and then a lot of people who, are very, let's say, conservative right, it makes them uncomfortable too. So I like it because it makes everyone uncomfortable. Like, just kind of a testosterone joke.
And I'm presuming, I mean, you say that you prefer to write in bro style, right? And to communicate with people. And then you said that people just try to one-up each other. And I definitely see that. I mean, just, producing videos here, we were discussing this before, like someone will agree with 99.9% of what you're saying, and then at the 0.1% of what you say he disagrees with, he's going to use the name that you have and just rape you. And that's the whole point. I mean, this one-upmanship that exists within Reddit, the Red Pill, within the MGTOW community, within anything else, it's I think it all comes down to either the competitiveness between men or I guess in the Red Pill world, the fact that everyone wants to be an alpha or trying to be an alpha. Yeah, the alpha. Yes.
I think one of the things that we talked about before was when you try and understand men or contemporary men, it's important to look at their media influences, right? Because whatever they see, they start to interpret it as normal. So, if you look at the 20-year-old male, they have a long history of yelling profanity in video games, right? And try to be, that badass sniper or whatever. And, maybe they were doing that from 12 to 16. And then now they've migrated to this form of masculinity, but old habits die hard. So it continues, right? Everyone's kind of trying to be James Bond, because that's kind of, in our day and age, the ideal. Maybe in 1600 they wanted to be like the noble knight, or before that, maybe in biblical times they want to be a pious man or something. Give God that unspeckled cow in the ultimate sacrifice. It was a cow that didn't have spots. But now it's all about being James Bond. And I think kind of moving forward from that, I think when you look at the whole PUA culture, everyone's trying to be James Bond. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a kind of combination of a badass with a strict with women. Just, I know. And is it the Sean Connery James Bond that everyone wants to be? Because that's what I keep seeing everywhere.
I don't know if it's the Pierce Brosnan one because he's more contemporary. I think, right when someone was 8, they just absorb everything, and that's who they try to be. But there's this kind of belief that the more women they sleep with, that something's going to happen. If we talk about our friend Rouge, I think I'll just go ahead and say it. So, our friend Rouge, I have this belief, and a lot of other senior members of the Red Pill believe this. We believe that Rouge raped himself.
Yeah.
And basically, Rouge wanted to have sex with 100 women, right? Like, he wanted a triple-digit notch count. I think that's what he was aspiring to. And I feel that when that is your aspiration, your quality controls have to be diminished to some degree. And I feel that the reason why he's so negative towards women is in order for him to achieve that, he had to sleep with some unsavory women, in effect raping himself.
Yeah. You mean to say he slept with so many women that he didn't like that he kind of like feels like he's the victim now, and he's behaving like a victim. I've seen his latest interview. That's what I did before I talked to you now. He definitely is behaving like a victim.
I mean, like what he's being put through, whatever, I understand it's stressful and whatever, and he has created some meaningful dialogue, but on a purely personal level, I feel that he idealized this James Bond figure, and he wanted to be him, travel the world, sleep with all those women. But so.
Well, I mean that's a trap that I believe is more of a young man's game. I mean, at some point in my life, and I don't mind admitting that, I was thinking that the value or the answer or maybe that empty hole in the middle of my chest would be filled if I slept with enough women. And I was doing that, and then you just find that hole just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and however many ejaculations you have on the faces of women, or on their butts, or whatever the fuck you want to ejaculate, is just not doing it for you, because the problem doesn't lie with the fact that you're not getting enough sex. It just lies with the fact that you haven't explored yourself or know yourself well enough to fill that hole on your own. And it's not the number of women or anything like that. And that's actually something that's coming from the Red Pill community and like senior members, like you say, who express opinions such as that. It's not your notch count, for example. It's not how many women you sleep with. And I like the direction that it's taking it towards, like improving yourself as a man rather than, just as a manual to fuck women, which is, it is the PUA side of things. And a lot of people do access it for that, but it's not the sole reason for its existence.
I think for a lot of people, they set out on this journey and they're so far along that they can't turn back. Like that's all they know, right? So if I think Neil Strauss, right? Like he dropped his pickup artistry, and then he got married, and so now that he's married, all of his like openers and stuff like that, he doesn't need those tools anymore, and so he's kind of like the fiddler who had his hands broken or something. You know what I mean? Like, and he's all sad, and it's this really weird thing. I just feel that men need to find something like even like something like the best wood carver, you know, the best doctor, you know, something that's very difficult to become the best at, right? That isn't dependent on your like if you're married or if you have a girlfriend or whatever. Just kind of have more purpose than just I exist to fertilize women. I don't know. I just don't think this can be fulfilling in the long term.
Well, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, that is one of the things that I agree with Rollo, for example, that I talk with from time to time, and other people within the MGTOW sphere that I was talking to before. I mean, it is not women. I mean, the way that I see the red pill is that it uncovers the truth about like female nature. Once it uncovers that truth about female nature, then you start to actually re-examine your whole life, especially if you were so involved into just banging. Right. And it should do that. But for many people, it's like, oh, this is how women are, therefore how to manipulate them and bang them even better. Right. So it is two sides of the coin, but I guess you need to move from the advice on how to sleep with women into how to better improve yourself as a man. Because right now, I mean, we are being targeted, and through Rush's actions, we're all being like viewed under this magnifying glass where they're trying to examine every single word that we're saying. I mean, it would be nice, I guess, for the rest of the world to see us as a place where guys just go and have some lad time where they just talk openly with each other and share their opinions about life, etc. But it doesn't seem to be exactly like that at present. And when you start seeing people that attack each other, especially within comment sections, so on who has the biggest fucking dick, which is idiotic because no one sends dick pics to each other anyway at the end of that argument. So I don't see us as improving or having a culture that understands that it's all about improvement. And the thing is, the majority of the guys that are here for improvement will just go there, read whatever they want to read, or come and listen to a video and just go like, yeah, I see what you're saying, and that's it. Either not comment or just, you know, take it in and just walk away. Yeah. I think
the other topic that people don't really cover is if you have an all-male population competing to have the biggest penis, right? There's this cognitive bias where things are all like, let's say I have a problem, right? The answer from this group of high testosterone men is always going to be, you know, like let's say I have a problem with my girlfriend, right? They're going to say, put her in her place, or like ignore her. They're always like these escalations, right? And, you know, do those things work? Yes. But at the same time, you know, let's say your girlfriend is cranky, right? She's starting stuff. You're not going to see answers like, if your girlfriend is cranky, why don't you feed her? Maybe she's just hungry. You know? You know, so everything is like ultra like alpha male, or what people's conception of an alpha male is. I think what I would compare it to is, let's say I was teaching someone to play poker, right? And what's the most alpha thing to do in poker? I guess it's to go all in, right? And you see that. You see like, oh, this big shot guy, I go all in. I bet all my chips, and then he wins big. And then this 19, 20-year-old sees that, and that's all they know how to do. They don't know how to read people. They don't know how to bluff. All they know is how to go all in. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah,
they pick one tool from the toolbox, let's say a hammer, and then just start hammering everything, and then their relationships fall apart because they've hammered their relationships. You know, maybe their relationship needs some glue, you know, but the you know, feed your girlfriend, or maybe your girlfriend needs a nap, or maybe you are being an asshole, or maybe I mean, it's two people interacting. Like literally, there's anything could be the issue, right? But all they have is this hammer, and everyone's like, "Oh, you have a small hammer. Why don't you use this bigger hammer?" So,
well, I mean, I find that it's the same with, I mean, the way that they behave within the red pill, for example, or within the comment sections, etc. It's almost like a representation of how they might want to behave within their relationships. Although I do not think that the majority of people, you know, who express themselves in the way that they express themselves within these spaces would be behaving like this. Otherwise, they'd be, you know, they'd be censored by the, you know, political correctness police by now. And I do see it almost like a competition, like you say. Maybe because we have too many men, and due to the competitive nature of us, we just need to one-up each other all the fucking time. But them missing the point. If your entire, let's say, attention is fixated on finding something wrong, and that's what I see people doing. Like, if I read an article, whatever the article might be, right? I read the whole thing in its entirety. I don't give a shit like what the guy's saying or whatever, whether I'm, you know, triggering in shit that he's saying.
Right.
I read the whole thing, and then at the end I try to assess whatever the information was. But not everyone does that. Not everyone watches the entirety of videos. Not everyone watches the entirety of conversations. And the thing is, like, with a platform like mine, I can see, right? I can actually see how much they've actually watched. For example, let's say on the Rollo interview, people would have watched on average, I think, 20 minutes. The interview was like an hour and 30 minutes, right? I still get the views and get the ad, which is all right, good, thanks guys. But like, I'm not getting people that make comments that are constructive because they don't watch the entire thing. And
I mean, that's the other thing, right? So how long do you have them before they start watching pornography? Because I think, like, you know, when I read an article, you know, I think it's like 600 to maybe 800 words max. You know, so it's just hold their attention before, like, they're gonna view that pornography no matter what. That's what I feel about my audience. It's just hopefully they're gonna view it after. Yeah, so I think an hour. You know, I think they definitely need to visit a website after 20 minutes.
Well, maybe we should give the advice: masturbate before you watch this. I personally do not think that they will go and watch pornography or something like that. I think what we generally suffer with poor attention spans. It's the way the world works right now, and we will read something short. I mean, Twitter is like, what, 140 characters. It's like a sentence, maybe 2 sentences, if you write proper sentences, and that's it. That's it. That's all they need to read and take in all the information that they need. But they're missing the entire point. And I think if someone wants to learn something, it's kind of like, because I went to med school, right?
Okay.
And I'm ADHD. I really am. And I mean, girls that actually know me and have spent long times with me, if I'm trying to tell them a story, I will start with, you know, a small thing, and I will end up on a completely different aspect. And I was like, why the fuck did I start telling you this? And I get completely lost. But you need to try and focus yourself, or like try and find ways to work around things. Otherwise, you're not going to read the book that you need to read. You're not going to finish what you need to finish. You're not going to take in the information that you need to take in. And anything you learn from that point on is going to be half-assed. Like, you're going to miss the majority of the points. I don't know how we can fix that. I mean, you're addressing your audience's needs by I don't really. Sometimes I think, you know, you guys don't want to listen to the entire thing. Yeah, I don't really care. Fuck you. Yeah, it's your problem. It's not really mine. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, how do you see the red pill space for you? I mean, what has it been for you? Because I'm presuming you haven't been a content provider from the beginning. You've been. Yeah, but you must have been participating initially.
Well, I came to the red pill in a unique way. So at first, when I came to Reddit, my goal was to piss off as many leftists as I could. And so the first article that I submitted, I said, "Hey guys, I'm a lesbian, in Florida, and I'm looking for lesbian dating advice. Basically, my Catholic parents don't approve at all that I'm a lesbian, and they're really hard on me, and I've never done this before. I've never dated as a lesbian before, so I need some advice. Basically, there's these really tall date palms, and I want to climb up a palm tree and gather dates, and I'm a lesbian. So how do I do this?" And so I posted this, and a lot of people ignored the whole date palm thing and kind of focused on the Catholic parents, and so that wasn't really fun. And then from there, I wanted to write. I'd write these articles about like how to succeed in online dating or something, and I would say things like, poor girls appreciate, your $15 dates a lot more, and they're just as attractive. So why don't you date poor girls? And I'd post this to the dating ones, and people would get really angry. And so it takes like a good 6 to 8 hours to really write one of these. And so they would delete what I wrote, and it was really frustrating. There's nothing wrong with dating poor girls. And so then I would post it to Red Pill. Red Pill would upvote it, so a lot of people would see it, and then the feminists would see it on Red Pill. So then, the bros would laugh, and the progressives would be really pissed. And so that was really fun. And then I wrote this article, and well, first I had this idea. I was like, could I write something that's like really good dating advice, right? That any liberal would agree with is a good idea, but phrase it in such an offensive way that they're going to be pissed about it, right? And so I wrote this post, and it was called "Treating Women Like Children," and the post was, if your girlfriend is angry at you, maybe she had a hard day at work, maybe she hasn't eaten in a long time, maybe she needs to take a nap, maybe something's wrong with her internal state. So in your next argument with your girlfriend, analyze her internal state and try and solve that instead of arguing with her. And I used this. I said, you could feed her like yogurt with granola and pomegranate, and once she's done being a hungry Helga, she'll calm down and take care of her girlfriend's needs. I mean, that could be considered blue pill advice, but yeah. I framed it in this very negative way. So my idea was, I wanted to figure out, do people focus more on the tone of what is written or what is being written? And I realized that they focus on the tone.
Yeah.
So that article went straight to the top of Red Pill. I got endorsed right away. And then there was this man, his name is David Futrelle. He's anti-men's rights, he's a feminist. He hates the manosphere. And he wrote an article about how I'm a huge shitbag for feeding my girlfriend yogurt. And Red Pill bro theorist says, and he was super upset about it. And then another time, Business Insider quoted one of my articles. Business Insider is a tier 2 publication, but I was 22 years old, right? So I just read this little article on the internet, and the Sydney Morning Herald and Business Insider quote me. It's mind blowing. I'm nobody. Yeah. Literally just trying to piss people off, and they're just taking the bait. And so And then I'd show my friends at the gym. I'd be like, look at everyone. They're so mad that I feed my girlfriend yogurt. Like, they're so mad. Like, pomegranate, yogurt, and granola. I mean, that's delicious. Like, it's healthy. You know, maybe it's not vegan. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what's so bad about it. And, like, these people are, like, they're pissed. They're furious over it. And the other thing I'll tell you is, you know, my girlfriend proofreads my posts. You know, everything I've ever written, my girlfriend has read. You know, it's not like I keep this secret. So it can't be that bad. But, and so everyone's telling me I'm this horrible person. And meanwhile, like, my girlfriend thinks it's funny. Her friends think it's funny. Like, and so for me, there's a huge disconnect between the people I read my articles and these leftists who are just kind of a brief aside, if you will.
I think I think these people, and because we these people just fucking trigger to anything that will minimize, and that's the thing. It's like you said, it's the tone. Like, you're treating your woman like a child when you think she's not an adult and shit like that, as if you're completely oblivious to the fact that she's an adult and stuff like that. And by the way, like, solid advice. Women will get cranky when they're hungry and you need to feed them some yogurt. I mean, it's common courtesy and common sense as well, right?
I just try and see, like, when is the last time I think she ate? And if it's over 6 hours, I'll do that. I do that. It can't be like I'm constantly feeding her, right?
Yeah, otherwise they get fat, man.
Yeah, that's not acceptable. But
yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, you were telling me that you met up with some of the guys from Reddit, didn't you?
Oh yeah. So basically, these guys messaged me, and you know, they're looking for fitness advice. And for some reason, he slipped in the city that he lived. And I was like, oh, I also live in that city. Why don't we meet up? And I was like, okay. And so, you know, met him at a sushi place, him and his friend, and they saw me as like a celebrity, you know, and it was really weird for me. They're like, oh, like, you're him. And I was like, okay, like, look, like, I read articles on the internet. I do it in a good way, but I don't know how to be a celebrity. So just like, it was an odd experience for me. But basically, though, like, whenever I speak with men, I don't really talk about red pill stuff. I just say, look, like, you know, get your diet in check, make sure you sleep correctly, you know, maybe try these exercises. Here's how to make fun, healthy meals. You know, to really prescribe what to do in a relationship problem. I mean, I'm not there, so how would I know? So I think you got to be general.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I was telling you that, I mean, even with me, when I was talking with people, it came to the point where they were asking me very specific questions, like very specific questions. And I don't know their lives. I don't know how they behave in their lives. I don't know who they are, you know, inside, and how they should be, you know, expressing themselves or whatever. I don't know honestly who they are as a person. So how would I be able to give specific advice to people? And my answer has always been like, figure shit out for yourself. Like, I know generally how things should go, like, realistically, especially if it's dating advice, for example. But when it comes to like very specific things, like someone was asking me whether they should move to a place or not. I'm like, I don't know. Make your own goddamn mind. It's how do you deal with these things? I mean, I remember the conversation we had in the past about this, how you when you make sure that at least they get something out of the conversation.
So if so there's this singer in America, Pitbull. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know Pitbull.
This Cuban American singer, and you know, he's like all around the hot girls all the time, and there's strippers everywhere, and then people are like, oh, I want to be like Pitbull, and then, you know, but I'm sure if you met him, like he has like a long-time girlfriend, he can't be hanging out with strippers all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so there's this image, right? That no way could it come, like if I was like, if he's surrounding strippers all the time, then when does he get to record songs, or when does he get to plan his tours, or and so they build you up to something bigger than you are. You become this kind of guru or this mystic. It's like a religion for them. So and if you're like, hey, I'm not, like I help people out, whatever, if you try and play yourself down, they're just going to go to the next guru. Like if you look at the PUA guys, they're like, oh, have sex with any woman instantly with the icon, and then they buy that $600 book. And I didn't want to do that because I would just feel bad. Like I'm a scummy person, So I just focus on like the basics. Like, oh, maybe you're depressed because you don't eat properly. Maybe, you need more social time. Maybe you need to go on walks, just get that bread and butter stuff out of the way. So at the end of the day, red pill, no red pill, feminist, whatever, regardless of what the ideology is being pushed, I can say, look, I helped this guy and I can feel good about myself. And this one dude, like, there was this 19-year-old and he was like, yeah, I read all your posts and like everything made so much sense. Like, what should I do? And so I sat there, I gave him a whole bunch of recipes and I said, make those recipes and send them to me. You take pictures. We did like a Greek salad with like feta cheese, lemon, tomato and cucumber. And then I taught him how to cook all of these meals. And, he, over like 8 months, he put on some muscle and he looked healthier. And so, at the end of the day, I can feel good about it.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to how people view things. I mean, it's almost like many of the guys that are on red pill or MGTOW or whatever part of the manosphere it might be, Return of Kings, Rollo's website, etc. They see it as a dogma in a way. That they see it as if that person or whoever is kind of like talking to them is almost like the prophet that's giving them advice on how to live their lives, and they're writing their version of, like, I don't know, the Bible in a way, and that's how you should go about things. And everyone's looking for direction in how to live their lives, but the whole point of it is just it's information. There's nothing else to it. There's nothing prescriptive to it. There's nothing that you should be doing or not doing or whatever. You should first of all figure out for yourselves. I mean, when I say things, and I remember when I was talking to Stardust again, he's on the chat, so I'll say hi to him. He was telling me, like, many of your videos are kind of like cathartic to you. It's kind of like you're talking about yourself. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. Like, I'm going through the process myself. I'm telling people, how things are for me, and it's either gonna work for them or not work for them, but it's definitely part of my process right now. I will dish that information out, and if people do not agree with it, yeah, fuck them. It doesn't matter to me. It's how I view things, and it's not looking outside for a profit. It's kind of like looking inwards for the direction that I want my life to go to, and that is one of the most important things that people should understand. That it's random guys from across the globe. We're all random guys. Like, we don't we don't know each other. I haven't met a guy who's around where I live who's also red pill or produces content or anything like that. So I just basically do my own introspection, and then I just share it with the world. And then when I get comments or feedback back, then I reevaluate some of the stuff, and makes me think. So it's a helpful process for me, and it's not there to tell people, this thing works. I'm 100% sure that this thing works. And in fact, that's how I know there is a scam artist, when I'm talking to them and they tell me that this shit works, because I know that most of the stuff that people say works for them will not necessarily work for everyone else. So I don't know how you get through to that specific mindset, because everyone just wants to be alpha, right? And in order to be alpha, you need to be the biggest asshole and need to disagree with everything or find the biggest asshole to follow, which is fucking weird to me, that people fail to do the thinking for themselves or actually believe that they're doing the thinking for themselves.
I think there's several things at play, right? For, before you were talking about how people were nitpicking you, right?
Yeah.
And there's something called critical theory. I don't know how the last time you were in university or in a university English class, but basically what happens is there's a passage by some brilliant author, let's say Shakespeare, and then they ask some kid who doesn't know anything, what's wrong with this passage? And then, how can you know what's wrong with Shakespeare or whatever, some great author? And so they nitpick some little thing. They say, oh, he said all men instead of all men are women. And they obsess about that, and I feel like our universities teach that in the English. So if you look at the content produced by the young men, let's say the 18-year-olds, it's like they're writing a high school essay, because that's who taught them. That's where they learned it. And then on the other spectrum, if there's guys who are amazing at engineering or mathematics, and for some reason or another they have the hardest time with women, but what they understand is formulas. That's what they get, and so they want a woman formula. They want an equation, and so I just feel like your setting really determines the way you think about things. Whereas, what it sounds like for me and you, it's like, okay, well, maybe this works for me, might not work for you. Something to consider, something to think about. They're not. It's not that concrete, and I think they come from a concrete environment. So perhaps that's why they're looking for it.
Well, either people take you too literally or they just interpret you too freely, I guess. It's one of the two things. Or I remember I was going, I haven't replied to any comments on my channel for a long time. Well, it's been a month. I'm not planning to anytime soon, because I figured out that most of the stuff that people critique or most of the stuff that people say, they're either reading between the lines or kind of misinterpreting the entire point or not even watching the entire video. So I especially when it's a comment that makes no sense to me. I remember I was reading comments that were like, Jesus, they were saying, you said this thing. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I didn't, because I scripted my videos, right? So I write them up, then I read them out, and I can just press Control F and then just paste whatever they said I said. And it's not even remotely close. So people can be on a different planet when you're talking to them at times. And it goes back to what you were saying.
Those people who, you have to understand, okay, so you're making these videos, you're throwing them on YouTube, right? Not everyone who watches your video, English is their primary language, right? So there's a lot of Indians. India is a huge, huge population. And a lot of them maybe don't speak English that well, or they're Germans. They're very literal people. And maybe they don't understand. What percentage of your viewers or readers are like that?
I have no idea. I don't particularly care. The reality is the majority of the red pill community, or the manosphere in general, I think they're in Canada, United States, UK, Australia. It's the Anglosphere, basically.
Right.
There are Germans around, etc., but the majority of people do come from the United States. So I would assume, despite how bad your education system is over there, that English is their primary language. It isn't my primary language, although I do have a good grasp of it, despite what people say. But it's not what you say, and that's the thing. The medium is spoken word, but when you do talk to them, and people cannot see my face, they cannot see my body language as I'm expressing myself. So it's only what I say. So a lot of the communication is getting lost anyway. So I understand why people will be having difficulties. But should we go back to the point before? I mean, about the guru thing that you were talking about, the dogmas and stuff that people seem to be looking for something to follow. I mean, what do you advise these people? What do you tell people like that? When you talk to people, they seem to be like, genuine nice guys, etc. But when you go one-on-one with them, it feels almost as if they want something from you in order to move on with their lives.
So I mean, once because I started Skyping these people, but basically what happened with me was they would send me like 8 paragraphs about their life, and then if I don't respond to those 8 paragraphs, I'm a huge dick. But then I can't be responding to, what is it? I get like 10 comments, 10 letters like that, every weekday. So that's a full-time job,
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'll just pick the guys that I think are cool, or interesting to talk to, and I'll just talk to them face to face, because that's just so much easier than, writing this column. And so the ones who are looking for religion, some of them are really young. Like this guy's like, yeah, man, I had this horrible problem with a girl, dude. She's the love of my life. Like, okay, all right, whatever. And then like it's like a 16-year-old from Australia. And then he's like, this girl's killing me. I don't know. And you're like, dude, you're 16, dude. Like focus on your grades. And then he's like, Mom, just a minute.
Yeah.
And so, maybe he doesn't have a father figure and he's trying to find one on the internet. And so, okay, and you're like, okay, well, eat healthy and exercise and try and get into a good university. I'm a rent-a-dad. Once you start seeing the manosphere, like, face-to-face, like, feminists see, like, it's a hate group. No, dude, it's just a lot of boys looking for answers. And I think I really want people to see it for what it is. If some guy's like, oh, women are horrible, he's like, what, 21, and his long-term girlfriend of 3 years left him, and he's in this, like, the lowest point of his life ever. I mean, if we got all the guys whose girlfriends just broke up with them, and we all put them in a room, and they all wrote essays, and then they threw those essays up on the internet, right? Like, that's very important context, but then outsiders go and look at it, and they're like, these dudes.
Yeah, but because they're assuming that when you write whatever you write, that you're at the, let's say, logical frame of mind, where everything's settled, you're sitting there, you're like drinking coffee or whatever beverage, and you're like, all right, this is how I honestly feel about absolutely everything right now. And then you express it like that. Yeah, and there is a lot of that. There's absolutely a lot of that. And there are a lot of hurt men out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Reddit posts from on the Red Pill where people say things or describe their life and seem to be hurt, etc. I mean, the MGTOW sphere was full of men like that, and they would say things like truly traumatic things. I mean, I was truly traumatic things, and things that would traumatize me too, like children being taken away, girlfriends trying to kill them, attempts to kill people and shit like that. And it's truly traumatic things. And then you have the other end where it's like a 15-year-old and his girlfriend of 1 month left him, and he thinks his whole world has collapsed. And yeah, you don't know ages, do you? That's the whole thing. You don't know how old people are. You don't know anything, and you don't know their life story. But there seems to be a lot of male trauma around our communities, let's say.
I mean, I think there was always. I mean, there's always been this level of male trauma. It's just when you take the divorced 40-year-old and the angsty 15-year-old. And he's just put these people in the worst time of their lives all together, all in one place. And they all feed off of each other. I mean, I just really, like, if I used to, you know, because for me, I really enjoy kind of trying different things. And sometimes I Skype some feminists, like some hardcore, like, I hate you and I want you to die. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk. Like, tell me how you want to kill me. And then I tell them, like, look, like this is why I write this way, because otherwise they'll start watching porn, or you know, you realize that the kid who wrote this was like 20 years old, right? Like, he's not old enough to really hate women yet. And they're like, okay, yeah, I see how they're looking for fathers. I mean, it's just so much of the context is missing. And then at the same time, you have these people who cater. Are you familiar with mystery?
Yeah.
You know, the mystery method?
Yeah.
So basically, in 2005, this guy's like, hey, I have the ultimate sex method. You wear this hat, you wear eyeliner, and you paint your nails black, and you become a sex magician. And the reason why that works is because all these boys play video games, and video games have those same themes. And so when they see those themes in real life, they're like primed to believe them. And when you cater to the people who are asking a question, right? When you try and answer them in a way that they want, you end up in weird places. You know, sometimes people ask you a question and you're like, well, that's the wrong question. Like, they're like, how muscular do I need to be before women are attracted to me? And you're like, that's not. There's no number. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, maybe you'll develop confidence by overcoming obstacles. You know, by lifting, I don't know, 100 kilos or something. By training, by being methodical. But then there's other people who will answer that question. You know.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And that's what PUAs are, because they're selling answers to the wrong question.
And what is the right question? I mean, that is the whole point. Because I'm telling you, because like we discussed before, you have a girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
You're in a stable relationship. You're not going out sarging. Yeah. See, I remember my lingo. Right, sarging to get women to sleep with you all the time. I'm presuming you don't use openers in every situation that you ever find yourself in, and you don't use any of these PUA trickery that is going around.
Right.
So you're not into that kind of shit. So what do you think is the right question for people to be asking? I mean, especially young men, and you do talk to young men, and that's what I'm.
I mean, so my personal method, you know, is, okay, so I'm 6 foot, you know, I'm about 200 pounds, right? 215, and I'm at the size where I don't have to prove my masculinity to anyone. You know, everyone is trying to be the most dominant person in the room, whereas, you know, for me, I was always trying to prove to girls that I'm not a dumb meathead. Where I was always like, hey, like, you want to come grill with me? You know, sometime, like, I'm really good at cooking, or you know, you want to go to the observatory, you know, these kind of dates that prove that I'm capable of other things. But to go back to your other question is, I feel that in order for a man to develop, he has to overcome adversity in some way, right? To gain that confidence and maturity. And, you know, he could go to the gym, I guess. He could do a martial art. He could sail the coast of, like, Argentina or something. Not Argentina, it's of Chile. You know, just go on some kind of adventure where they push their boundaries and become more complete men, instead of, you know, real achievements, like real adversity. And I think that's what men need. And there's a lot of different ways of accomplishing it. You know, maybe they can go rock climbing or scale, you know, some mountain or something. It's all good.
I mean, I see what you're saying. I mean, it doesn't matter what the adversity might be. I mean, for me personally, it was Graduating from med school was one of them. Getting through some personal shit that was happening at the time, also one of them. And it's being able to look at where you're standing right now and how you were before, and being able to make the link that you have progressed, that you have become better in yourself, and that there are always challenges in your way. I mean, that's how that's how I see it. And I did a video recently where I tried to say that men, especially young men, should be selfish. At the beginning, you should always be selfish. Look out for yourself, grow yourself in some way so that you're able to see yourself, and that's how you become more dominant, more leadership material, and that's how you should be developing. That's how I see it, at least. And it doesn't. I mean, I'm not. I don't even have an idea of what adversity might mean for people. The woman is making noise. So it is.
Yeah.
It is about.
The woman is making noise. The woman has apologized.
Good woman. Now, so it is about figuring out what's important to you. I mean, that's what it comes down to. At least for me, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Find out what's important to you. If you don't know, that's what being 16 to about 22, 23, 24, 25 is all about. Fucking figure out what works for you, what you like, what you enjoy, etc., and then just start working towards that goal. And you will see improvements. Whatever you're doing, you will be improving. Maybe sometimes it's one step forward, two steps back, but that's how you get better at whatever it is you want to do, and that's how you develop to be a better man. At least that's how I see it, and I think that's exactly what you were saying as well.
Yeah, it's everyone wants a formula, but at the end of the day, they live a different life than you, right? So to force someone into your mold, I don't.
Yeah, it's.
But at the same time, they want specific answers too. So.
Well, that's the thing. Well, exactly. That's exactly my point. I mean, one of the main problems that I have about like PUAs, etc. Let's say, right now I'm happy at the point at the place that I'm at. Right. It's as if I'm giving advice, and people are asking me about advice on how they should be a certain person or how they should feel more comfortable about themselves. And then my advice to them is you should migrate from another country into the United Kingdom. Then you should go into med school, graduate from med school, become a doctor, then follow this. Oh, by the way, you should have also had some kind of abuse in your childhood, and you need to get over that. You should have been dumped by so many women. It's completely idiotic, and that's the kind of advice that PUAs are giving. Or then they would just give advice about the end result of how they are and what works for them, and people are not at that point in their lives. The thing is, the whole process cannot be cheated. That's what I mean. You need to do what you need to do for yourself. Are you looking at your woman making noise? I think you're giving her looks.
Yeah. It's distracting.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own process. It's tough because they just want cheat codes. Maybe that's another theme, or some video games have like a guide how to get all the achievements.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's what they're looking for. But on the other hand, I feel like imagine like you were Jesus Christ, right? And like you came to Earth, and you're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be throwing stones at prostitutes because should be doing other things. And then people are like, dude, throwing stones at prostitutes. Oh, I didn't even like doing that. You're so right about everything. Tell me how to live. And he's like, oh man, dude, I have to think of how to and then they start following him, and he doesn't know what to tell them. I'm sure that's happened many times. I'm not comparing myself to Christ. I'm just saying that maybe that's how all those leaders form. They say a few good things, and then all the things.
Yeah, well, but I think we should be honest at least with people. Wait, let's see. There is a question from the chat because I asked some of the guys to ask you questions because
Fine.
it's a great opportunity to reach out and get very specific advice.
Okay, I'll give them very specific advice.
Exactly what we were preaching against.
Yes.
Are there circumstances where a man may be permanent beta due to physical characteristics?
I mean, I've been really lucky. I mean, my father was a bodybuilder, so maybe I'm just been genetically blessed. So I don't know anything. I've never been wheelchair bound. But I mean, there's people like Stephen Hawking who overcome, like they develop other things. I'm not very coordinated. I can't play basketball or any kind of real sport. That's not a strength sport. So it's either like chess or like wrestling or weight. It's just I just can't catch things. So you just kind of do something that doesn't involve your physical ailment or
because I personally spoke to some true force loneliness guys in a way, and I spoke to people who had physical disabilities, etc. I think, if there is a very deep physical disability in a way, let's say you suffer from something that puts you in a wheelchair, you're permanently suffering from things, then it does put you at a disadvantage towards women, and women will feel sorry for you. But the reality is that is not the point. That's not what you should focus on, and you shouldn't focus on what people think about you, and you should just try and improve yourself or work with what you have, because there's nothing else you can do about it. You can't just accept a situation as being horrible all the time, especially if you don't do anything within your power to change that situation. And that's exactly where I'm coming from when it comes down to these kind of things. This person is saying that I have been annoyed at my height for years, and I'm 26. I'm 5'5".
Yeah.
Sorry.
My woman is sneezing.
Okay.
She's a sneezing woman. I mean, like, okay, so this one time, this guy from Hong Kong Skyped me. Obviously, he's like, ethnically, he's Han Chinese, right? That ethnic group. And he said, I want to look like Thor from the movie. The guy Thor, what's his face?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He was some kind of Nordic, Scandinavian something. And I said, look, like, you have the genetics of an Asian person, right? So like your ratios of one muscle to the other, that's what your DNA is, and I can't change your DNA. So why don't you look up to, some Chinese weightlifters, because as you grow, you're going to have their proportions, right? And so if you can't become something else until you change your DNA, right? And that's not going to happen anytime soon. And even if you could, it seems really dangerous. I can't make that person taller. I mean, I'm really bad at driving. I'm like really, like, my girlfriend makes fun of me for all the time. And I'm really bad at knowing where I put my stuff. I'm constantly, and it's like, there's some things I'm not good at and other things that I am good at. And I just focus on the things that I'm better at than other people, and I try and increase those skills, I guess.
He's saying he's short. You can't really change your height, as far as I know. There are operations, but they're shit and they don't work. So don't do any of that shit. I'm just leaving this out there. But if it's your personal appearance that matters to you, that you want to change, why don't you just change that? I mean, you can lose weight, you can exercise, you can, you know, do things that you can do. I mean, fixating on things that you cannot change is something that will not help you or improve your situation.
Can you move to a short country? Can you move to like Ecuador, like Peru?
So that he's taller on average, you mean?
I mean, Peruvians, I don't know. I think you can go to Wikipedia and find some really short countries and just live amongst them. Right? I mean, what could you do? I think getting back to the whole Indian thing, they're like, oh, I'm Indian and I'm short. And you're like, well, you're average for India, right? I mean, like, why are you competing with all these Europeans?
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, for me, I'm not a very tall person myself. Right. I'm not 6 foot. I have no idea what the metric. I know metric system, so I'm like 175. That's all I am. It's not even average height for the United Kingdom. Doesn't matter. I still do very, very well when it comes to like women and stuff like that. So that height doesn't has nothing to do with it. It's all about your mindset, your attitude, what you bring to the table, I guess. So it is about focusing on things that you can do. I mean, if you focus on the worst thing about you, the worst aspect of yourself, then you're going to be that worst aspect of yourself in your character, is what I find.
Yeah, I guess. Or like people will like focus on one attribute that they have of themselves, like ears or like nose. They're so focused on it. I think it's a product of our culture, you know, where advertisements are made to make you feel insecure about yourself, so you buy stuff to kind of fill that hole. And I mean, were people always so hung up on that? It's just, I don't know. It's just not a healthy mindset. I just focus on other things.
Yeah, exactly, and it's not a healthy mindset to focus on things that you can't change. And no, it shouldn't be like that. And I mean, people who are on the red pill communities, Reddit, etc., they should understand that it isn't about how you look. I mean, it is in part of how you look, but there are so many different aspects on being a man. And I mean, if we're specifically talking about like male-to-male conversations, it doesn't matter at all how you look. Like I don't want a man next to me. I don't care how a man looks when I'm having a discussion with him. When we're talking specifically about women and men, yes, there is women care about how you look, but so what? Right? They care about how you look to an extent, but there's so many different aspects that matter to them. We talked about status, looks, money, you know, how protected they feel around you, and it has nothing to do with your height, or you know, the fact that you have a really, really ugly mole on your forehead or something like that. It doesn't fucking matter. Things like that can be worked around, and men should never focus on how they look as much as they do now. This is a new thing. I think it's a new mentality. And you like working out, right?
Yeah, I mean, so you know, I make money training people, consulting people, writing about it. You know, because now I sell T-shirts on Red Pill with my fitness articles, and so. But what I'll say about that is, you know, the area that I live is very competitive in that fitness environment, you know. So I'm choosing to move online where I'm more competitive, you know. But
well, the thing is, I mean, you work out. Do you work out to get laid, or do you work out because it's healthy? Do you work out for any other reason? So, I mean, what is the reason that you work out as much as you do?
I mean, so, you know, I think you have to look at culture, right? So, you know, I was born in Russia, and so in Eastern Europe, we kind of have a different idea of what masculinity is. You know, you have these big men, and they're like, you know, huge, and they're like not only strong but amazing at playing chess, and like a physicist or something. And there's, you know, if you look at Vladimir Putin, right? If you look at where he gets his masculinity, where he gets it from that Soviet ideal masculinity of, you know, beat the United States in weightlifting and beat the United States at chess. And so I feel like his whole generation, that's how they define themselves. And so, you know, I have some of that, and I think it's a cultural thing, right? Mm. Whereas maybe in the United States you have like, you know, I want to be a cool guy who likes skateboards and stuff. So I guess how we define our masculinity is based off of our environment. You know, in Africa, I think it's in Tanzania, like the most masculine man can jump over the most cows, right? So I just think I grew up around a certain kind of group of men, and it got cemented in my mind that being muscular is masculine. And
I guess that's exactly right. But I mean, what I'm asking is, you're working out. You're saying one of the reasons is culture, but
right.
I mean, I personally work out for my fitness. I mean, that is the main reason of why I started working out. And I haven't been working out, to anyone listening, for like 2.5 years before that. So I had a nice belly, which I still hear a bit, and I can kind of like playing with it right now. It didn't stop me from getting laid or getting any serious pussy or anything like that, guys. So it's completely irrelevant to that.
I think working out as much as I do it is going to stop you from getting laid.
Mm.
I think it's going to be a detriment, because I mean, if you want the six pack, you want the big shoulders, you know, that means your eating has to be planned out more or less. You can't be drinking too much alcohol. You have to be sleeping a certain amount. You have to be lifting on certain days, right? And then, because it's such a long-term goal, because it takes so long to accomplish, you know, it becomes a major component of your life, right? And so you don't do all of the bars and all of that. So I think it's a detriment. But to having as much sex with as many different women as possible. But it's like pick your poison, you know, you have to.
And that's exactly the thing. Like that's what it comes down to. You like doing this thing.
Right.
That's what it comes
I love it.
Yeah. And it's not, for example, whether it has to do with you getting more pussy or not. Like you said, if you work out as much, and I have friends who are bodybuilders. Like they tell me, look, dude, I can't have sex with my woman when I'm doing squats day or the day afterwards, because I'm so destroyed after that. Right. I need to plan my meals. I need to, before a competition, I need to do things like, so I need to eat specific things, cut on other things. And then that's actually causing problems, let's say, in my dating life. I don't have enough time and all that. So that's your poison, and you're willing to make sacrifices for it. Thing is, like, people who are not at that stage, they're looking in and they're like, oh, look at this guy, he looks awesome, he has muscles like that, he has biceps, like I want to have biceps and shit like that, he must be getting a lot of pussy. And yes, you look good, yes, people look good, but people do not see the sacrifices that you need to make in order to achieve a certain goal. And it's always time. I mean, it's always fucking time. Yeah,
I think you have to pick how you're going to invest your time, right? And so, you know, okay, I can work hard to look this way, and perhaps with the way I look, I can sell fitness services, right? I can make money. But if I spend all my time chasing women, it's a lot harder to monetize that. But on the other hand is, you have to look at what activity you're doing. You know, what are the 45-year-olds who have been doing it for 20? Where are they? You know, the 45-year-old PUA who's been drinking for 20 years, he doesn't look good. You know, his liver is not doing too well. You know, so I think you kind of have to pick your hobby based off of the elders in your hobby.
Yeah, you look at the long-term picture. I have DM Mr. 9
Okay.
He is asking you, can you retell the story of when you went up against the matriarchy?
I went up against nature. Well, I mean, if you are kind of a bigger guy, like if you're a muscular guy, and you wear a tank top to places, to school, they put you in this dumb bodybuilder category. But when I was in college, I took this women's studies class, and we had to. There was a film, and one of the characters was gay. He was a homosexual, and I didn't write that. My essay wasn't that controversial, but I used the term homosexual in it, and to describe the man,
yeah,
and his circumstances, and every instance of the word homosexual was circled in red on my paper, and I was like, okay, well, what's the problem here? Like, did I misspell homosexual? And she's like, no, that's an offensive term. You should say gay or queer. And I was like, well, queer doesn't sound too good. Like, like queers, get off my lawn, that kind of thing. And she's like, no, like we've reclaimed the term. And it just felt like such nitpicking. And then I had to argue my essay up. But I mean, that's their home base, right? You're in the heart of the beast there. But I think I don't want to suck my own dick too much, but if you look really masculine, I think you're going to be a natural target. And to be honest, like what I do is like if someone says that, oh, you're a pickup artist or this, and I'm like, no, like I have a girlfriend, who I'm in a really wonderful relationship with. So like, why would I be hitting on girls in the street? Or one of the stories that my girlfriend, she was there for, like I was at a supermarket with her, we were holding hands, and this woman was with a child, and she was like shielding the child from me, like I was going to kidnap the child, and it was just so odd. I don't know if that answers it, but yeah, I mean, people like see stuff on television. Maybe they see like big Russian men with beards, and they see them like throwing people onto vans and like kidnapping them, and then it gets mixed with their reality, and perhaps that happens to me a little bit.
All right, and then there is another question. Being that women are incapable of love, and that's mainly like a MGTOW line, I don't know if you agree with it. The only way to keep a woman, the short-term way, like, is it even possible to have a long-term relationship and not get screwed over?
I mean, not everyone gets screwed over, right? But I think what's an interesting experiment for men to do, I think men should go on Tinder and make a account of a woman, just like an average girl, like 7.5, and just see how dudes hit on you. Like see that perspective from a woman, and what you'll find out is most men are really boring. Like, hey, you want to fuck? Like you see how boring men are. And I'm not saying that women aren't boring too. Most people are just boring, period. But women get bored of men, and rightfully so. So just don't be boring. Have passion in your life, and then do exciting things, and go places, and you're gonna be more exciting than 95% of men.
I mean,
I don't know if I'm answering these questions.
I mean, he's asking specifically if it's possible to have a long-term relationship and not get screwed over. And you said not everyone gets screwed over, so I guess it is possible. I
mean, Rollo's like has a wife and like 2 daughters or something.
Yeah. He's married, and he's been married for 20 years or so. He said so the other time, and he has at least from what I remember, has a daughter. So. Yeah, I mean, you can have long-term relationships, and I mean, can I say now? I mean, I'm dating someone now, and it's been like a couple of weeks that I'm dating them, and I said, I mean, the whole thing was popping in my head since I did the Golden Eagle Owl chat back then when we were discussing about women, etc., and it was appointed time in my life that, you know, I was just sleeping with women, etc. And then there was this woman that I was like, holy shit, I don't hate her. Right. That was the first thing in my mind. I don't hate her, and I didn't mind the fact that she spent the night with me. And that was like, that's important, because normally if I sleep with a woman, I kind of like want to roll over and kick her out of my bed. That's my main reaction to it.
Right.
So that wasn't happening, and we kept on talking, and she seemed to be an interesting person. So I kept her around. Now, I don't have any false perceptions of whether that's going to last or not last or whatever. I'm thinking that right now, and today, for example, I want to see her, or, you know, have her tomorrow with me. And that's all there is. That's all there is to it. And I don't care. I take it a day at a time. I'm not planning a life with her. I'm not buying a dog. She's not moved in. Nothing like that is happening. Or I don't even know if it will ever happen. But that's how I see it.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I will ask this to you. Okay. Are you upfront about being red pill?
Yeah. So my girlfriend proofreads my content. And she knows my username on Reddit, so she can read everything I ever write. And it's not for any particular reason. Like, I just, you know, if I'm writing an article for, let's say, 8 hours, how am I going to hide that? You know? Oh, by the way, I'm like the #1 guy in like this anti-feminist. I mean, like, how am I going to hide that? Or like, I mean, my girlfriend's in my room right now listening to all of this. So
it is.
I mean, my whole family knows.
And what's your reaction to the content? That's the second question.
I mean, she knows what she signed up for, right? I mean, fundamentally, you know, most of my work is, I'd say a third of it is about fitness, and sometimes they're about like larger topics. But I try and have a more holistic view. I don't know if this person could rephrase, or I feel like I'm like politically answering these questions.
Yeah, well, I think it's not one person, by the way.
Okay.
So the thing is, if you were to break up, the woman goes away, we don't like her anymore, she goes away, you don't see her anymore, etc., and you start dating again, would you be upfront with a woman that you're red pill, for example?
I mean, when I started dating my current girlfriend, I think on the second or third date, I had this article that I was really proud of, and it was called "Women Are Like Pokemon." And I read it to her, and it was about how you have to find the type of woman that's right for her, for you, and you have to capture her, and you have to train her. And if you're a shitty Pokemon trainer, it's not going to work out. And if it doesn't work out, you know, it's because you're a shitty Pokemon trainer. And I mean, you could look it up. Like, you could go to Red Pill and you go, "Women Are Like Pokemon." It's, you know, I was trying to make a post that the younger men would like more. But yeah, and I read it to her friends too, and they really enjoyed it.
So yeah, you see, I mean, I don't tell, because I'm going like a very strange. I'm living a strange life. I mean, due to my profession and stuff, I need to be absolutely 100% careful about what I do and who I'm portrayed to be in the media. Because, for example, being a doctor in the United Kingdom and the GMC stance on things is that you need to uphold or behave as a doctor at all points in time in your life. It's as if you're not able to be a person. It's as if whatever I say, whatever I do, whoever I am, however I hang out with my friends, etc., I'm portraying doctors at all points in time. Therefore, I try to keep my identity secret. I never tell them who I am. I haven't yet, not to any woman. My friends know, all of them know, because it's not that big of a deal, and I'm just saying exactly the same shit that I do in my life. But the women that are involved with me, they know, you know, that I'm red pill. They know exactly what my beliefs are. They know exactly all of my stance. They know I hate feminists. They know all of that stuff. right? And
Right.
I'm absolutely clear about all of these things, and I even like advise their brothers on dating and shit like that. I'm very open and honest about things, even to their friends and stuff. And the reaction that you can get on occasion is a
Right.
very aggressive one. Like, but I don't care particularly. I mean, aggressive, not from the point of view of the woman, but sometimes from the people that she knows, because women know what your beliefs are. They, especially if you're being honest with them, they know exactly what your beliefs are, what your stance are. Right. So I think be honest, be upfront if you can. And I will eventually tell that woman what I do and who I am, etc. Maybe when she signs an NDA agreement, because I'm that paranoid.
For me, I had this cathartic moment where I just stopped hating feminists. Like at first I thought they're like the worst people in the world. Then I realized that feminists, you know, so I write articles, and at the bottom of my article, you know, I have a link to a cool shirt that I think that, you know, 21 to 22-year-olds would like. And, you know, what do feminists fight for? I mean, they fight for what, like marriage law and stuff like that. And I'm not really fighting against feminists. You know, I'm trying to improve men's lives, you know, by helping them become better men. I'm not really fighting anything. I'm not fighting the feminists. In fact, the feminists help me because they publicize my work. And the more they publicize my work, the more money I make.
I mean, that's one way of looking at things. I don't hate. I mean, I do hate everything they stand for. That's where my opinion is. But I don't fight them. I don't argue with them. I don't make anti-feminist videos. I don't care enough to do that, because I think feminism is just like an extension of female nature. It's just bitching, isn't it?
It's hard for me to hate them because, like imagine a feminist attacks you, right? Your sales go through the roof, and you get $200. It's this weird Pavlovian thing where I try and get attacked by them so then I could like go eat sushi or something, you know, do something fun, right? Or just buy something. I mean,
so you just take the benefits from it.
I mean, they give me money. I don't know how to. They attack me, and then people click on the article that's attacking me, and about 20% of the men who click on it don't like feminists. And then, you know, my conversion rate is what, 2%, and 2% of those men will buy a T-shirt. And it's just really hard for me to dislike them at this point. Like they even attack me for selling T-shirts, and when they do that, I sell about 5. So I get about $45 whenever that happens.
So that works out. I mean, at least
it's just hard for me. Like at first, I was like really like, you're horrible people and whatever, and they destroy the family. And okay, but when they're handing you cash, it's just really difficult. and perhaps that's what you should do. You should figure out a way to make money off of them attacking.
I mean, I'm doing the thing is I'm trying to keep the money situation out of it completely for me, because I make enough money as it is. I do. This is like a nice hobby for me. You know, I talk to people that have similar beliefs to myself. I get to have fun. I get to have interesting conversations. So for me, I mean, I'm getting a benefit just from this. I mean, I do monetize my videos, and I will monetize this video. Yeah. So I do get some benefit from it. I believe, you know, don't do everything for free, but it doesn't. I don't want to make fuckloads of money from it, because then I will have to declare it, right? And I need to get taxed for it. Fuck that. I like to make.
I mean, you can always do something with it. Like one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to start a red pill scholarship, and partially because it would piss off feminists. Like what I would do is, you know, let's say I start making huge bucket loads of cash. I'll be like, red pill scholarship, and then I'll give some Romanian 18-year-old, you know, $1,000. You know, and he'll be all happy, and then, you know, the progressive left will be like, here's red pill corrupting the youth, you know, and so my opponents will be really pissed, and then I think $1,000 goes really far in Romania or one of those countries where feminists don't exist, really, so that teenager won't face a backlash.
Well, yeah, you're right. You can definitely do good things with the money. Yeah, you're right. I never considered that. I am too selfish. I like to buy myself nice things.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, because those 18-year-olds get really excited over stuff like that, right? Like, what's an extra $1,000 to you? But what's $1,000 in Romania to an 18-year-old?
Exactly.
And how angry will the feminists be? So I think it's a win for everyone.
Should we answer one more question and then we wrap this up?
Okay.
Right? Because it's their attention spans would be completely destroyed.
Yeah, they need to look at pornography.
Yeah. They've probably already looked at pornography. Let's see. Which question? Right. So, let's answer this. What major books have you read or influences in both our lives that you feel have improved your life? Any books, anything like that? Anyone's content?
I like this. He's like Slovenian. He's like a Slovenian philosopher, Slavoj Zizek or Zizek, and he, you know, look him up on YouTube. But basically, he said some crazy stuff, and it, you know, when you write like I do, you need someone to help you, you know, interesting ideas that you can build on. And he basically, one of the things he said that I really enjoyed was that masculinity can only exist symbolically. Like, you know, let's say I'm this, you know, like muscular guy and people think I'm really tough, right? And so they act that way around me. If I go starting confrontations, yelling and beating people up, I become kind of a caricature of myself, and then I lose that. You know, perhaps, you know, you have a father who always threatens you, and you're like, oh no, okay, I'll do my homework. But then he actually gets the belt out, and then you're like, okay, well, that wasn't that bad, so I don't really care anymore. So I think masculinity can only exist in the abstract without acting. And so yeah, definitely check out his stuff, and it really influenced a lot of what I wrote. So, and it helped me write things from a different perspective, a more interesting perspective.
Anyone else? It can be a no. It's fine. So no one else. You thinking?
Is anyone else?
Oh, can you hear me? Is that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I think maybe.
Oh, I can hear you.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, I can answer for myself. I mean, 2 books. Well, 1 book really, and then just work from Rollo. I mean, first one was The God Delusion by Dawkins. I just I just put into perspective things that I believed for a long time, and then I just, you know, had a way of expressing myself, and that would happen when I was like very, very young. And after that, it was work from, I guess, Rollo and stuff, who put a lot of the concepts that I had in mind and used words for it. And, you know, after that, it was just work from Barbarossa, Stardust, Spetsnaz, etc., who really influenced me. And these are guys within the MGTOW community who just, I think for me, what works is like people that create words for concepts, and then I can just put a lot of things in a nice little box in my head, and then I can think about these things more clearly. So people who have helped me do that were like Rollo Tomasi, definitely, Spetsnaz, Barbarossa, and Stardust definitely helped a lot. And these other people, and if anyone doesn't know them, go and check them out. Any last dying words?
Yeah, so I think this other book, we're going to go into an interesting territory here. I read this book. It's called Eco Science. And basically, Obama's chief science advisor, Eric Holdren, wrote this book called Eco Science. And he basically says that the world has too many people on it and that they need to reduce birth rates. And one of the ways he said that they were going to decrease fertility was feminism. Right? And so it really changed my perspective. You know, at first you look at feminism as this kind of ideology. They're wrong here. They're contradicting themselves. But if you kind of go back, and this isn't some conspiracy theory. This is a book published by a government official, and you start saying, okay, well, maybe this is really about reducing birth rates, and making men more hesitant to cohabitate and making men more hesitant to enter into marriage and have children. If that's the real purpose, right, then things start to really click. And so I think that really changed my perspective. If we're going to be talking about feminism or the manosphere.
Any last dying words to the people that are watching, or to people who will make it through the masturbation phase and reach all the way to the end?
And I think just have a holistic approach. Don't look at all sides. No one should be your god. And approach it with humor too. Some people they're all bad and they're all good and it's black and white, and I don't know. Don't take it all so seriously, dude. It's just a whole bunch of dudes venting online.
Absolutely. And for me, I'll tell you good night first of all, because it's really late where you are. Yeah. I'm gonna go and lift now. Usually I'll go and lift now. Guys, just take care. It's like he says, take a holistic approach. Don't take everything too seriously. Especially know yourselves, and strive to be better. I mean, that's all I wanted to say. All right, let's stop it.